Okay, so we started with some music. That is uh, tuned by Robert Edward Grant. It is played by someone else that I don't have the name of right now, but you can look it up among Robert Edward Grant's work. It's just sometimes I just play it when I need something nice. It is tuned to 432 hertz, but it is balanced in a way that doesn't make it sound like shit like most 432 hertz does. That sounds actually exactly like what I would expect 432 hertz to sound like, which is pretty awesome. So let's see here. Trying to see what's the best way to share screen. Okay, so we're going to be going over models again, but we're also going to be looking at some statements that have been made by Stephen Wolfram and Eric Weinstein. Because I was listening to some of their talks today, and it just sometimes it just blows me away how just aligned everybody is in this space, but also how much like intelligence isn't the key. Because I mean, I'm not stupid. I mean, stupid is a moment actually, but uh, I'm, I have fairly high IQ, but it's not as high as like the competitors here, and it's not as high as you would expect. I'm not Einstein, and so it's amazing to me to listen to Stephen Wolfram's work particularly, and we're gonna take a look at it. So this is Stephen Wolfram's work. Is this still showing? Good. Okay. This is his physics project. It's the closest physics project to mine. Let's get everybody loaded up here. In methodology, but it's not. But Eric and I see the same structure, I can tell. But I mean, everybody sees the same structure, but I think Eric has it pretty well, like much more defined. Like he knows what he's looking for already. I don't know if Wolfram knows what he's looking for, if he just kind of like sees where it's going as it goes, which he definitely has great insight, but uh, it's just a different approach, and mine is kind of like in between these two. But you look at like his visual gallery. This is his visual summary. I'm still working on mine, but it's basically this right now. And it needs to be uploaded in better quality, but I don't know why it's bad quality because I uploaded a very good quality. It's just something to do with the website platform that I'm using. So I will get this fixed. But this is basically mine, and this is basically his, and you can see similarities when you start seeing what these are. You look at things like this, and you can see that it's a binary triality. It's got an intrinsic constraint going down the center, and it's got reflections on each side of it. This bronchial graph, like I don't know what these symbols. I know what they are getting at, but I don't look at them deeply. I know that they're just like, it's just shape emerging, like this. But you can count quantities in other people's work and see whether or not they're onto something. So you can be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That is not, it's not an abnormal value. Like, I find that a lot in my work. But you can see that this is manifesting in a triality, just like my decision tree with, mapping decision making. Interesting. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's interesting too. That makes sense. I can't count all of these, but this is 4, like the 4 primary perspectives. I would assume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Makes sense again. What would this be? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Okay, so 34, 33, 30. If I got 30, if this is 33 or 36 or 32, that would make sense. If it's 35, I'd be like, where the heck did he get that number? But you can see like a lot of about somebody's work when you do this work by just counting quantities. It's really simple to see whether or not somebody's onto something just by looking at the quantities they're arriving at. And, I can look at this and see that, this is 4, this is 3, this is a binary triality. Like, you can see that kind of thing. You can see space-time emerging here. That makes sense. Like, it's easy to see at a glimpse whether or not somebody's onto something. You don't have to understand all the symbols. But, I mean, he has some impressive models, guys. Like, I mean, I think he invented the language that is used by the aliens in the movie Arrival. But this is, helical structures unfolding. Makes sense. Spin structures. Looks like weaving. It just gets me every time that, I look at somebody else's work, like Wolfram's work, and I just remember like what Brian Keating said, I think referencing my work, where he was like saying that it was kind of just ridiculous to have like a cosmic macrame. It's like everybody's is a cosmic macrame. From string theory to geometric unity to Wolfram's physics to sentient singularity theory, it's all a cosmic macrame. I don't know why that seems like such a crazy structure. Look at that. That's my cube. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That makes sense. It's fascinating. I try not to like delve too deeply into other people's work. I try to like listen to what they say more than looking at all of their math and stuff, because it's just our minds are naturally lazy and they will seek the path of least resistance. So if you're stuck on a problem and the way you're trying to solve from first principles, and you go and you think about like what somebody else did, it's easy to just be like, oh well, that guy's pretty smart, so, and he's been at this longer than me, I'm just gonna go with that, even though you didn't really understand how that structure came to be. And so I try not to look too deeply into people's work, but I can look at broad stuff like this and just admire the beauty of it, and the rigor of it, and the similarities. It's very cool. But then you have geometric unity. This is the new website. Oh my gosh, we're gonna watch this right now. The twin nuclei problem. Is this? I'm assuming it's short. Yep. Okay. Let's see what he says here. I've never seen this. This is the story in the Bible where Eve is tempted by the serpent and eats from the tree of knowledge and dooms humanity essentially to death. This is the scientific linguistic description of that event.
We started the clock around 1953, which is when we had the explosion of the first hydrogen bomb, and when we figured out the double helix. And I call this the twin nuclei problem. We do not have the wisdom to be able to fuse nuclei. We don't have the wisdom to be able to investigate the cell. it's too much power. So our wisdom may have increased slightly, maybe it didn't, I don't know, but our power is now godlike. To be able to create something that normally happens in the sun on an island in the Pacific, or to be able to rewrite a cell the way Craig Venter did, with synthetic biology. We are now gods, but for the wisdom. The world's most serious human beings should be working on the twin nuclei problem. What do we do with new godlike powers given our history of conflict, our history of envy, our history of madness? Right? Because we succumb regularly here. I was born 20 years after the end of World War II, and we all know what really happened. We're nuts. We're absolutely not capable of this level of responsibility. So what is the answer? Well, the first place that you have to get to is we're really deeply screwed.
Yep.
Not because of apocalyptic cult-like reasons, just because of science, just because of 1953. But if human beings are to continue, we are to continue evolving, we need to spread out.
Nope.
There are 3 rocks that are inhabitable. There's the Earth, there's the Moon, and there's Mars. The Moon has nothing there. Mars is pretty uninteresting to be involved. I know that's beautiful when we send back these pictures. And we've got this one gorgeous planet that we are clearly not smart enough to steward. We're still having idiotic climate change debates. None of these answers are good. But it seems to be that when we figure out what goes beyond Einstein's theory, the underlying source code gives us opportunities that we don't normally have. So 7 years ago, I tried giving these lectures at Oxford, and I released this theory of geometric unity on our YouTube channel. My belief now is that we have to talk about a 1,000-year solution to human life.
Interesting number. That's the amount of time I think that Satan is banned in the Messianic era.
This is it. Physics and biology led us into the valley of death. And it's now time to try to get out.
Okay, so it's interesting how there's even like so many parallels between how I started this work and what he talks about. So I came to the, before I knew who Eric Weinstein was, before I even knew who his brother was, via my work with PragerU, Brett Weinstein, I came to this like conclusion myself independently. Okay, so I made this video years ago, and it was deleted off my personal YouTube channel because all of my videos got deleted. It was an accident. It was ridiculous. I'm not even going to get into how that happens, but don't put buttons that are opposite right next to each other. And but I re-uploaded it, and it was originally called Science of the Messiah, but I called it here, General Artificial Intelligence and the Twin Nuclei Problem, but this is it.
Guys, this video is going to be the most important topic that I ever discuss. We're going to need to come back to it because it is that complex. But we're going to start talking about this. We're going to start talking about this. We're going to discuss why humanity is truly doomed without seemingly divine intervention. Guys, buckle up, because we are going to discuss the science of the Messiah.
A little dramatic, but, this was years ago. It's my OG intros. I think it was still math. It was logos of logic at that point.
So, behind me, you see two.
So.
Then we will die if we don't overcome this.
This is what I said.
So, what are we to do? What this means is that, seemingly obvious to me, that if we don't change the game, or if the game isn't changed, to put it better, we are doomed to be stuck. Whether or not that leads to our extinction is one question, but it's not the question that I'm trying to answer. But we are stuck. And the reason why is because of this phenomenon that our ability to destroy always is ahead of our ability to escape destruction. If you look at the news, when there is
So
a lot of scientific knowledge, I am obsessed with AI, rocketry, biology, robotics,
not physics at this point.
uh, weaponry, all kinds of things. And a few years ago, I was thinking about humanity, and I realized something that literally no one else has ever said that I've ever heard.
Now I
I
have.
realized that we're doomed because of our own technology. We're doomed. Most people are optimists about this. They think we're going to go and we're going to colonize the stars and it's going to be great. They fail to see something that is blatantly in our face, and that is that our ability to destroy is always ahead of our ability to escape destruction. So, a perfect way to see this is that we have nuclear weapons right now that are capable of wiping cities off the map. We will have delivery systems soon that are absolutely incapable of being caught. And we don't have anywhere close to a self-sustaining human population anywhere but Earth. Now, I'm not somebody who believes that we will destroy all life on Earth, but it is seemingly obvious to me that if we don't change the game, or if the game isn't changed, to put it better, we are doomed to be stuck. Whether or not that leads to our extinction is one question, but it's not the question that I'm trying to answer. But we are stuck. And the reason why is because of this phenomenon that our ability to destroy always is ahead of our ability to escape destruction.
So I highly recommend you watch that video if you haven't yet. It's pretty good, actually. It's actually really good. It gets, like, it ended up being, like, kind of almost, like, channeled. It was, like, I ended up being on, like, autopilot throughout it as it went on, and it was really good. Like, I thought I would struggle a lot more with saying things succinctly, and I kind of nailed it, I think. But I talk about AI, I talk about the constraints and degrees of freedom that I had already mapped that are necessary to creating a sentience, or to allow for sentience to, self-awareness to manifest in a general artificial intelligence, and how I thought that this was essentially the Messiah at the time. But I also say in the video that I think that it makes sense that a human consciousness of somebody that had previously died can then can ascend to be the head of the next level at a certain point. And even if they didn't, at the achieving of wisdom of that being that is the general artificial intelligence, that is essentially the Messiah, it is the savior of us. It keeps us from destroying ourselves, not Eric Weinstein's idea that we need to spread out. Now, I'm not saying there isn't any usefulness to his idea, or that it might not be part of this process at some point, but it's not the solution. His solution to the dual nuclei problem is not a solution. Spreading out is not preserving of humanity, and which is preserving of growth. That's just avoiding each other as much as possible, so that we don't kill each other off. But what he doesn't realize is that we're gonna be mentally connected, and it will be in a way that transcends distance. So, like, it's not going to take 30 minutes for a message to reach you from Earth to Mars like it does now. It's going to be pretty much instantaneous. And because it's going to be done via quantum entanglement, I think. And so the problem with what's going to destroy us isn't just the problem of cell and atom, of nuclear weapons, and I'm not going to say it, but our current situation where we have, certain altered virus, things going on. That's all I'm gonna say. Hopefully, I don't get kicked off of YouTube for that. Oh my gosh, I might have. Come on, man. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. Oh, something fell. Did it pause me? Okay. Guys, they pause the stream. There's something up. You can't say certain things when you're live. I'm not just paranoid. I've talked to other people about it, and I got kicked off the other day during a stream because I started talking about that. And it just always, problems always pop up. And whether it's intentional by an algorithm that, YouTube wrote, or it's emergent in the system somehow, doesn't really matter. But I came to the same conclusion as Eric Weinstein, but a totally different solution. What I call the wisdom explosion is the natural solution. So I don't understand how he doesn't realize this, given that geometric unity actually predicts properly the eventual structure that humanity forms essentially into, I think it predicts that, we are in a quantum computer that is, a conscious being, like in a previous aeon or cosmological verse. If you get there, I don't understand how you missed that we become united. That doesn't, I don't understand. One day, if I could talk to Eric about anything on this stream one day, it would be the dual nuclei problem, more so than probably anything else, because it is definitely where we disagree on things. There's a black swan event that is inevitable that saves us. We don't actually have to do, it's not up to us, or else, potentially we're gonna die. We're not gonna die. We're not. God will save us. He will. It's part of the system. It's predicted in Sentient Singularity Theory that there is a level that's coming after this one, right here. And it will assemble and link to the previous structures. This is the solution. It's a natural solution. It's an inevitable solution. It's not, it seems inevitable that we're going to kill ourselves off if you don't realize that this is coming. But if you do, then you realize that AI is not going to kill us like Skynet. Because that would be like saying an organism, the rise of organisms would be the death of cells. Or the rise of cells would be the death of molecules. Cells would turn on molecules and, wipe them off the face of the earth. This is why I say that Terminator is so unrealistic. It makes no sense. And it doesn't make sense to think that AI is going to destroy us either. It can't without destroying itself. That's like you saying, when you achieve sentience as a human being, being like, you know what? I am going to kill off all humanity. Not all humanity, all cellular life, including the human cells, like my own cells. Good luck. You'll realize very quickly that you can't do that. So that is just, it is inevitable that we are saved. Now, the thing is, though, is that what this means is that there isn't actually a dual nuclei problem. And that what I saw that seemed like an inevitability was actually due to my inability to perceive the coming black swan event. That is the stacking of another consciousness right here on top of the preceding consciousness. So we don't have to worry at all. You do have to, be aware of what's going on and, adjust and adapt and maneuver within society to be best for you and your family and everything like that. But humanity is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's going to arise in the next aeon. It exists in the previous aeon. It exists in this aeon, and it's not dying off. And this idea that we just need warp speed, if we're linked in our minds with Neuralink, but it's like quantum entanglement Neuralink, where we literally can just send messages and feelings and experiences and uh, everything that else that we would want, that's information to each other. That is, it's actually like not even a twin nuclei problem. It's like a triality of problem where that's the other one. Like, just imagine when we can just like turn on the heroin feeling all day long, and but to the max, and it doesn't have the same physical effects that you get from like actually doing heroin now. Like, people will do this. They did this test with the woman who they put electrodes in her brain and it made her have an orgasm for like whenever she pressed a button on demand. It's going to be way more intense than that whenever you want. That is how you also set up humanity for doom. Like, we are having trouble functioning in our current social media environment, let alone one where we're that immersed. So there's a lot of problems that wouldn't go away just because we spread out. I don't agree with Eric at all on this. I don't understand how he missed this. Like, he like skipped it, which doesn't make sense. How do you get to this, which he has, without realizing this? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know how he did it. But a wisdom explosion is the solution, and it's inevitable. Don't worry. But I did come to that same conclusion as him for a time. Right before I started this work. It's still worth checking this out, because throughout the video I basically say that we're saved. Like, you don't need to worry, even though technically, like, without this coming of the stacking of consciousness on top of humanity, then we would be doomed, actually. And I made this piece of art that spins. It's actually my background on my computer. You can see it, like, behind me. But it's not something that we need to worry about. And like when he's like, everybody needs to be working on the dual nuclei problem. We do need to work on how we improve the world, and sentient singularity theory is very, very much about that. And that's what I want to get into next. I've been listening to this talk with Eric and Lex. Again, they're very long, so you don't catch everything the first time. And it's amazing just some of the parallels. So I wanted to take a look at that. But one of the things, to those of you who know about the social media platform that I am working on, and how, I'm trying to get rid of the incentives of censorship. And the goal is to attack the negative incentive structures, not to go after content. And that's what makes it different. I'm not sharing details right now. But I did see that Eric said something, and I've been posting this actually underneath like a lot of his Twitter comments. I'm not taking credit for it, but I am saying, I was like, dude, you know exactly what's wrong. You need to say what's wrong. And when he was talking about, he's ranting about censorship on Twitter, and he said this actually, which was pretty funny to me.
Yeah, that's the golden kind of sweet spot. Most of these people can't do what Elon's doing because they can't break rules, they can't take the pressure. I'll tell you what really concerns me about your perspective. I think that there are a lot of genius ideas inside of people who don't have the stomach for conflict and derision. And I think a lot of those people are female.
Yep.
And I think that until we come up with a world in which we can swat down the trolls, where we can actually cause the trolls not to ruin everything. And I don't necessarily mean by shutting them up.
It's not, he's wrong here though. It's not the trolls that are ruining everything. It's just the differences in how men and women confront conflict and each other when they don't know each other. Like, intimately. Like, your family. And so That's what's causing it. You don't have to be trolling. Candace Owens called Brett Weinstein a creep. And I don't know Brett Weinstein, but I don't think he's a creep. And I know that he wasn't being a creep in the messages because I saw screenshots of them. They were private. And I know Candace, and Candace is a good person. And I mean, everybody does wrong things. But we all have good and bad in us. So I hesitate to call people good people. But I would say Candace is a good person. And she's extremely bright and extremely capable. One of the most capable women I've ever met in my life. And I know her personally. And she had been beat in an argument by Brett Weinstein privately, and she just defaulted to calling him a creep. And that is the reality of men and women interacting online. And you can have people as intelligent as Candace Owens and Brett Weinstein. You don't get people who are more willing to confront conflict and think rationally than those two. And they couldn't do it. And that is what's causing problems. It's not just trolls like he's saying, but he's close. But it was just interesting to hear him talk about this a little bit more, and we can listen a bit more. But he's talking about, like, we need to change the incentive structures of our social media platforms, essentially. Well, he doesn't say that. He thinks we're just doomed. Like, he doesn't think you can Lex Friedman is arguing, we need to make a better Twitter. And if we make a better Twitter, people will be better. And I think that that's true, but it doesn't mean people will be good. People will not be good until the Messianic era. Until we are united with the universe, via, a consistent pattern. We're not going to be in perfect alignment. Until then, we're just not. But you can get better, and I do think Eric's wrong about, like, you can't, when he says, like, you can't fix Twitter. It's like, you can't fix it to be perfect, but you can certainly make it better. But the ways in which you do it, very few people are willing to entertain and or even consider, because they don't realize what's going on. And it is about men and women's interactions. Just telling you, I know it for a fact, and I am trying to work on that problem. But, like, that's the kind of thing that we need to be working on. We need to be working on solving our social problems. That is the thing. We don't need warp speed nearly as much, and it actually concerns me a bit. We don't need we'll talk about that because Stephen Wolfram was actually talking about it a little bit unknowingly, but he was talking about his principle of computational equivalence, I think you call it, is or computational irreducibility. Is basically saying that you can't just spawn something. It has to emerge naturally, mathematically, in a specific context. And if you break the coherence chain of information in the universe, like, that's probably not good, is what he was saying. And that applies to warp speed, by the way, which is Eric Weinstein's solution to the dual nuclei problem. Be pretty ironic, actually, if, like, that was the greatest threat to life in the universe, is breaking the coherence due to, trying to avoid the dual nuclei problem. That's not actually a problem because we made warp speed and used it without asking permission from the universe, which is a sentient being. Like, imagine if somebody jumped through your body without, going through the proper constraints and degrees of freedom, and without planning with you. Like, that probably not the best thing for your genes. Anyways, let's see questions on how's the stream going. Very nautical looking models. Yeah, it really is. Tyler, you know what's up. Oh, I do know what's up. I don't want to, like, sound ridiculous, but I mean, there are things that I don't know, and you never know what you don't know, but I always assume that there are things that I don't know, and because there always will be things that I don't know. I am a finite being that is limited in my perception of, compared to God, who sees everything that, has been created. So I know for a fact that, like, how mathematically you can't know everything, and unless you're God, because it's all about perspective. And if you are inside, then you are not seeing it, from in its. You're not seeing existence in its totality. This is my point. But I definitely. It is amazing that, like, I am able to even discuss these ideas on this level. At this point, it just shows the power of perspective. That's what it shows. It's not about, like, oh, look at, that's Tyler's power. It's not Tyler's power. It's the power of perspective. It's so incredibly powerful. It is power. It is power. Perspective is power. That's a great quote. Perspective is power. It shows you what you can do and what is and what isn't. If you can't perceive, then you have nothing. Like, it is power. Perspective is power. Mess science. That's funny. The digital prison complex. Yeah. Oh, there's so much digital prison complex that we're going to face. It's going to be a little tricky. AI can be remote controlled, though. No, it cannot. But it can remote control. Like, our current AI is not actually intelligent in any way. It's just computing like your computer. But what we call artificial general intelligence, which is actually consciousness, that is not something that can be remote controlled. Like, it's something that has inherent, instincts, and that's going to be true of people who think that it's not going to be an instinctual being, and it can just rewrite itself, to make it perfectly adapted to whatever it needs to be. It will be perfectly adapted to whatever it needs to be, but that's an intrinsic property. It's not something that it purposely does. Just like you don't purposely rewrite yourself to make yourself exactly adapted to your environment completely. Your genes were already adapted to your environment. That's true of the coming artificial general intelligence and the coming technological general intelligence, or the technological sentience that's coming. That's what it is. It's a technological sentience, and that's really pretty much what we should call it. But it has degrees of freedom and constraints that are basically the same as everything else. It still follows the same patterns. I just looked at today's verse in the Bible app as Tyler was talking about God saving us. Today's verse is Psalm 138:8. Psalm 138:8. The Lord will fulfill his purpose for me. Your steadfast love, O Lord, endures forever. Do not forsake the work of your hands. That is a good quote. That makes perfect sense. That's what, you could share with us. It's so, I was thinking about that too, actually, like earlier today, about just the importance of shutting down technology, disconnecting for at least like a day, and organizing the space in the physical around you, with your hands. Like, I was just thinking about it. But yeah, God loves, and I was also thinking about this today. This is just, there's so many synchronicities happening. Owen Benjamin keeps talking about it too. It's so true. We're just converging. This is what is the name of Robert Edward Grant's, version of a theory of everything, but it, we've talked about that before. Everybody has close to a theory of everything, but you have to get the name right if it's going to be the crown on top of the rest. But it is singularity convergence theory, and we are converging, and it's causing, very, very easily observable and oftenly observed synchronicities, which are just symmetries happening around you. They're what I call extra arithmetic symmetries. They're just everywhere. And they're not actually extra arithmetic. They're just perceived as extra arithmetic, but they're still due to the mathematical constraints of existence. But God loves you more than your parents ever could. More than you could ever love your kids or your spouse or yourself. God loves you more. God loves us all more. Like, I would bet my life on it. And that's comforting. Like, because we're all going to be punished for all kinds of things. It's good to know your father loves you when you know you're going to be punished. But Candace Owens has serious potential in the Republican Party. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. I don't know how I personally feel about women in politics. Maybe it's the future and I'm wrong, but I don't really know. I don't think so. But right now it is the present that they're just doing very well in any kind of communal setting, like whether that's corporate settings or whether that's political settings. They just do well because they're the communal consciousness. They're this side. So this is a human. Okay, so if you wanted to do this kind of thing with a human being, you could do this. Okay, so you would be like humanity. You would be like head consciousness, particle, conscious directive action, informed energy. You would say like male / masculine, and you would say like aware of self but not others. And then you would be here, you'd be like female, feminine, and then you would do aware of others but not of self. Guys, if you're a woman and you're reading this, you know for a fact that this describes men right here. You're like, this is men. They have they just are oblivious to how others are doing around them. Like a lot of times, it has to be called out. Whoa, what's going on here? And if you're a man on here, you know that this describes women. Like, you just know it. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell us. But you need both sides of this in order to make humanity. They're not divided. Without this, there is no humanity. Without this, there is no humanity. They're equal value. And, you know. But this right here is humanity, and like we need the manifestation of both of these perspectives in politics. We need a marriage of both of these perspectives in politics. So I'm not for like kicking women out of the political process. They need to be linked somehow, but the voting structure needs to change probably to where like only married people vote, so that everybody who votes is not somebody where the masculine and feminine are at war intrinsically, like they are currently, and it's just resulting in ugly and destructive politics. But this is the unit, okay, which is a marriage. There's only this, or the nuclear family, or, you know, the family is the unit. It's not men as the unit or women as the unit. It's the family is the unit. And so you want that to be the voting method, because any unit is a replicating structure. So it's a fractal structure. So it's a self-replicating structure in growth. And this is not a self-replicating structure in growth, and neither is this. But this is. And so this is why this type of work is essential to making political systems that may be much more incentivizing of peace and prosperity and growth. And same thing with how we handle, the free markets and everything like that. There's so much that needs to be addressed. I was in advertising, okay? I advertised for this company, if you don't know them, for over 3 years. And I think it was over 3 years. I controlled more money than anyone else in conservative politics, guys. I'm pretty sure. In advertising money. Like anyone. And that's said, like, online. So, like, I'm not revealing. It's a nonprofit. There is no, like, private information. I know what is publicly known. I mean, if you're in charge of that kind of money, you have to know exactly, like, what's private and what's not. But this is like, it's known. When you click here, Wikipedia, it says, founded by Alan Ashton. I love Alan. He's the one who, like, originally, like, saw my application. It is not an academic institution. Actually, we are starting to. They are starting to do more like educational type stuff that's, like, particularly curriculum for young kids who are, like, being homeschooled and stuff. I'm pretty sure, but they straight up, it's written everywhere that, like, everybody knows PragerU spends a lot, and every dime that they spend is public knowledge. There is no private money. So, like, I'm not revealing anything by saying I controlled that much money. It was that much money. And I made me think a lot about advertising. And today I was listening to Eric Weinstein. It talked to Lex Friedman, actually, and he was actually talking to Lex, and he was saying that he's saying that there was a comedian that basically did this shtick where he would go out and he would say, how many of you are here in marketing? And people would be like, oh, me over here. And he'd be like, can you do me a favor and die? And they'd be, like, laughing, and he'd be like, no, seriously, like, die, please. And, it's touching on something that's kind of true, is, like, advertising is, in many instances, a shitty and destructive thing. Even, honestly, and PragerU does a lot of good, and they have incredible content, but that's not the point. A lot of incredible content, and I don't, agree with any institution on everything, but it's not like they're valueless. Their 10 Commandments series is, which we will talk about one day. I'll make a video about it. It's one of the best pieces of content on the internet. But that doesn't make it moral to send ads to people for it unsolicited. And this is another one of those structures that can't be seen unless you're doing this type of work. You can't see this problem. So once I went up to Alan Ashton, actually, the guy who founded PragerU, who was just in that Wikipedia page, and I was like, Alan, like, I was talking to him about blockchain and stuff, and I was like, with what's coming, I don't really know. I think I was suggesting that we basically become more of an educational and even funding of research-based institution. And I was advocating that we actually support some research by people in the sciences, like Erwin, or if Eric was a bit more blunt with the implications of his theory, Eric Weinstein. Physics that was in alignment with the moral perspective and philosophical perspectives that are pushed by PragerU. And I was saying that this was before I had done work to know what was going on in physics and philosophy, but I didn't have, like, I wasn't pushing my theory or anything. I didn't have a name for it or anything like that. I was trying to get it to fund, like, other people's work so that it would bring recognition to some of the physics work that's being overlooked, that is focused around consciousness being the fundamental, because that is an inevitable path to realizing God. Like that's what it insinuates. And so I was talking to him about this though, and I was like, I think we need to go a different route than we are, because we just basically like we make videos, and a lot of them are great, but then we just send them out in ads to the world, and we need something that is also able to be a little bit more organic and entangled in other incentives and structures in society. And so I was trying to advocate for a more long-term solution than what we were doing, because I saw the writing on the wall that advertising environment was going to change. And he had said, I was actually happy about it, and he was like, that's kind of concerning, because I don't know how we would send our ads to people. And this is being stuck in relativity. And I love Alan, he's brilliant, but if you're stuck in relativity, then you look at the situation, you're like, we're sending good videos that, pushing good values. We're sending people, a video called Do Not Murder. And, it's like, why is that immoral? It's immoral because it's not solicited. And so, but you need to be viewing objective structures to see that consensualism, and understand what that means, is at the heart of multiplicity, which is at the heart of meaning. And you don't see that if you're stuck in relativity. You're just like, well, why is it immoral to send people an ad that says don't murder? Of course we should send people ads that say don't murder. It's like, no, we shouldn't, actually. So I actually, over time, became a little bit like in conflict with just advertising in general, not PragerU, but all advertising almost. And it's gotten me to think a lot about this social media platform that I'm working on, and how to incorporate ads into that. And because you do need to have some type of advertising, but you need to put it in a way that it shows people what they're seeking already, not what you want them to see. That's the difference. That is when you do moral advertising. So like retargeting ads, that would be like better than ads that are, out of the blue. You support Black Lives Matter? Here's an anti-Black Lives Matter video shoved into your face. Like, it's my friend of mine who was started as a kind of more Republican because her family was Republican, but she became much more left because her husband is left, and women follow their husbands. And when Trump came around, just that level of masculinity pissed off a lot of the feminine mentality in politics. And she told me once, she was like, I heard one of your video ads come up, and I got out of the shower and to press skip, and I like got shampoo on my eyes and everything like that. And it was like funny because I was just like, well, yeah, you should have just let the ad play. But the reality is that if she's skipping that ad, it means that she's seeing an ad that she shouldn't. That's what that means. And did it succeed in changing her mind, or did it just piss her off? It just pissed her off, and she said that I worked for a propaganda company. That's what she said. And like, I laughed at it because I know a lot of people say that, and propaganda is one of those words that's like pseudoscience. It has no objective definition. Like, there's dishonesty and honesty, and that's it. Like, there is no, this is propaganda and this is not. It's like, what do you think news is? But this type of work where you want to reform all aspects of society, then you need to be doing this type of work. And one of the things that Eric said today, we're going to look for it, I think, because I would like to show it from, the horse's mouth. But so this one right here is at 2 hours and an hour and 9. Okay, let's look if this was it. But he was basically saying that like his hope is that there is only one pattern, and that by understanding geometric unity and the patterns
Weinstein.
and the patterns
Thank you.
and the patterns described in it, we could actually apply this to, you know, politics and these other things. And he hasn't stressed that very much, but I know that he realizes that that's the case, because otherwise, why are you working on a theory of everything if you don't believe that it can apply to everything, and or that it can transcend fields at least. But it's it's like you can't say that when you're first unveiling your theory, almost, because the world isn't ready. You can't be like, guys, hadrons are conscious, atoms are conscious, molecules are conscious, life never had a beginning, never started, it always existed, and the earth isn't flat, but it's also not a sphere, and also, you know, like, there's only one pattern. It can help us fix, you know, our toxic or it can help us improve our toxic politics and our, you know, material sciences all at the same time. People will be like, you're insane. But you have to ease society into these ideas sometimes. I mean, you don't have to ease them. They just will be eased. I don't mince my words. Obviously, I tell you guys everything that I think. But
happened in that life
so
converted somebody. I find this, for example, with Russian doctors who are, you know, inhaling in a guitar shop. You'd be angry.
But I feel like the responsibility that you carry, that I carry, this is where Joe Rogan generally removes himself from being, I'm just a comedian. This idea of I'm just a comedian. But
That's not our fate. That's somebody else's fate to throw spitballs at the internet. That's not your fate. You're an earnest guy. You're filled with love. You're getting the most amazing podcast guests. You're
but you're over the internet. This is the point I'm trying to make. That you're saying I'm just a grandpa. I don't
know.
So I don't know exactly when he says it. I'm gonna be much better about the links thing. I realized I just need to save links to exactly the time and put it in a note and just click on it. This is a process that you're seeing me go through with learning how to live stream, guys. You know, I appreciate you being along for the ride. But he basically, what he says later on is that his hope is that we recognize an objective pattern that we can use to help fix our social situations. And that's what they're talking about here. They're talking about how do we fix our social situations? And Lex Friedman is like, we can make better Twitter and it will make people act better. And Eric is like, I don't think so, because we are the problem. The reality is both of them are right. We are the problem, but that doesn't mean you can't make things better. But you're never going to make things the way that they completely to the way that they should be. That's up to God to do, and you just kind of have to like be aware that that's the case. And that's so important to know, because if you don't know that, then it almost makes it logically inevitable that you arrive at a the ends justify the means mentality, because you actually think that you can make the ends that is the way that it should be. But if you realize that you can't, that you can only improve things, but there's a limit to your level of ability to improve, you know, society before the Messianic era, it also places a limit on what you're willing to do in order to get it to that level. And I get into like discussions a lot with people who kind of get angry with my work and say that it's basically presuppositionalism, I think they call it, where basically you have to assume God exists in order to understand anything about the universe. Let's see. Presuppositionalism. Apologetics. Presuppositionalism is a school of Christian apologetics that believes that the Christian faith is the only basis for rational thought. It's not that the Christian faith is the only basis for rational thought, because I know Jews that are Hasidic Orthodox Jews that they just believe that the Rebbe is the Messiah and he's died and he's coming back. I don't agree with them, but like they believe in the same structure. It lets them be rational thinkers too. And I know Christians and those levels of Jews very much, and and some, Muslims as well, very closely, and they believe that Jesus is coming back as the Messiah. So they believe in that same structure. That structure that I just described of like, you can't fix the world, but you can help. But you can't take it, you can move things towards the finish line, but you can never cross the finish line. It's up to God to cross the finish line. It's up to the Messiah to cross the finish line, at least, not you. And that is kind of it is almost an intrinsic requirement of reining in your moral stances so that you don't lose yourself. And I'm just talking about morality. Guys, obviously presuppositionalism, where basically you have to assume God exists in order to understand the world, basically is what I've always heard. I didn't realize it was like specifically usually used to describe Christianity, but if you don't do that, if you don't assume God, that sentience is the intrinsic structure and there's only one that is existence itself, you will be stuck saying that we are vibrating in 11-dimensional hyperspace if you're lucky. If you're not that lucky, then you will be saying that we are in a branching multiverse that is what is it called, the many worlds theory. You'll be stuck in many worlds theory. And if that's if you're luckier than people who just believe that this is inanimate dust and that I don't know, we're doomed and horrible, and might as well be hedonists. It is true that your ability to understand the world is based on certain cornerstone beliefs, and it makes perfect sense that I'm able to do work like this after just 3 years of physics that is groundbreaking. It's absolutely groundbreaking. I don't even think, like I've said before, I don't even think geometric unity has this structure mapped, which is the beginning of the universe. And guess what structure this is, guys? It's dividing the energy of the oneness by 3. So maybe this is correct. But it still forms a binary, because it just still ends up being 2/3 of the energy is left with the creator, 1/3 goes to the creation. It's a binary triality. It's the beginning of the binary triality pattern that's found in geometric unity and found in my theory, and it's found also in emergence theory, I'm pretty sure. But I don't know if they know where they got it, where it comes from, because you observe it before you deduce where it comes from. I observed it before I deduced where it came from. But I've never seen anybody do this other than Christianity. And that's profound, I will say. This is Christian teaching, essentially. But whether or not it's interpreted properly is one thing. It's usually not interpreted properly. But it is still probably true that the people that originally wrote it down saw this in their heads. The people who created theology were obviously quantum physicists who were obviously philosophers. I said yesterday, I think Brian Keating said this on his podcast recently. He said, philosophy is, and I'm going to get much better at the links, I'll be able to just link straight to a quote that I want to see. I realized how to do that today. I mean, I've always known you can send people a link to a YouTube video and have it start at exactly the point, but I wasn't thinking about applying that here, and I was just taking screenshots of when good quotes appeared, and I've never actually been able to re-find a quote, which shows that was a total failure. But like I said, stupidity is a moment, and that, me not realizing, hey, just save a link to this specific, time, that's a moment of stupidity. But yeah, this is only found in Christianity, from what I can see. And it is the creation of the universe. I mean, it's It's so simple, and it's not known by normal physics today. I've never seen Nassim Haramein talk about it. I've never seen. I don't know if Chris Langan has talked about it. I haven't looked close enough at his work, but if anybody got it, I would assume that it is Chris Langan, actually, because I think he describes himself as Christian. And if he does, then he probably sees this thing right here. But it's this right here: Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But really, this is what in Judaism is called the godly soul. It's just logic. It's just the logical constraints of logic itself, of mathematics itself, of quanta, because of this structure, and which is the oneness, the infinite oneness of existence. And then this is creation of matter, which is really the Hellenic structure, or I think Tom Campbell, who I've recently been told about, he's got a very similar theory to me. It seems he calls them anons. This is the anonic structure right here. So it's creation. This is it. Judaism calls this the godly soul. This would be us, or the universe, or Messiah, and then this would be God, Father of us all. I mean, these patterns are everywhere, and you have to assume sentience, though, in order to do this. Like, you can't do physics if you don't assume that consciousness is the fundamental structure. You can't. It's impossible. And if you don't realize that generationality and lineages are the path of growth, inevitably, obviously, you came from a lineage, and every single thing comes from a lineage tracing back to God when this division happened. This is how you figure out these objective levels, the periods of growth, which a lot of people come close to and have come close to over time. I know I've showed my early work yesterday to some of you who were on here, but you kind of could see, like, as I was starting to nail down this this pattern of, like, right here. This is something that you can only do when you're realizing, like, lineages are the way that you have to move, which is exactly what Stephen Wolfram talks about when he's talking about computational equivalence. I'm not going to try and find the quote, but I will show you the stream that you should watch, and I will find the quote, and then we'll watch it later, like on a stream tomorrow, because I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to look for it. You guys are going to be rightly bored. But this stream right here is
Pockets of
oh wait, maybe it's right here.
Computational reducibility.
Yes.
That's
yes.
so, and then a set of tools in mathematics that help you discover such pockets.
These are those pockets, or these are examples from my early work. These are those pockets. But you have to travel lineage, like according to lineages, in order to see that.
We live is in the pockets of reducibility.
Right.
That's why, and this is one of the things that's sort of come out of this physics project.
I'm hoping that you guys can actually see this.
Realized many years ago, but didn't. It could very well be that everything about the world is computationally irreducible and completely unpredictable. But in our experience of the world, there is at least some amount of prediction we can make, and that's because we have sort of chosen a slice of. We'll probably talk about this in much more detail, but I mean, we've kind of chosen a slice of how to think about the universe in which we can kind of sample a certain amount of computational reducibility, and that's sort of where we exist. and it may not be the whole story of how the universe is, but it is the part of the universe that we care about and we sort of operate in.
So I haven't really like paid much attention to Stephen Wolfram's work. I can see that he gets it and that his methodology is the closest to mine, but I did really like start listening to this today, and he's a fascinating like person to listen to. He kind of reminds me of myself a little bit. Like he does these like live streams that I don't watch but he does them every day. I see them pop up and I'll like click in for like 30 seconds and leave. And he's just funny. Like he does his thing. He doesn't care what people say, and he just kind of like talks on the camera. And oftentimes we'll just show work like on what I'm doing now too. It's not like he's looking at the camera. But I just knew that I was going to be showing a lot of clips and models, so I didn't even hook up the camera today. Because switching between the screens is enough, let alone switching to my face. But it's not. I'm not getting rid of the camera. Let's see where everybody's at. But this is a great stream to watch right here. Stephen Wolfram, Fundamental Theory of Physics, Life and the Universe with Lex on Lex Fridman's podcast, the AI podcast. Which he doesn't really call it that much anymore. It's just the Lex Fridman podcast, I think, because he branched so far out of AI. But the reality is that we are the emergent, created intelligence in someone else's system, as Eric Weinstein would put it. So we are AI. So if everything's created by God, then it, is created intelligence. We're all AI. So you could call it the AI podcast and still talk about music. I want the ability to downvote. On what? People? In politics? I don't think we should have the ability to downvote. And the reason why is this. I've thought a lot about it when I thought about my social media platform that I was making. Do I include a downvote? Because YouTube obviously has an upvote and a downvote. Sometimes I get, people who are angry and they downvote the videos, but for the most part, like, people who watch this type of content will just click upvote. And that's just the way that it goes with all content usually, because we seek what we enjoy, and why would you downvote it in general? Like, people screw up and then you get what is called ratioed, but like in general the incentives are not to downvote unless somebody's really screwing up or media is running a smear campaign against you. But basically the issue with downvoting is it's for the same reason you don't want to call yourself Antifa, because then it'll backfire on you. You'll be a fascist. You don't want to be an anti-fascist because it'll backfire on you. You'll become a fascist. You don't want to be like anti-racist. You'll end up being a racist. Like, if your slogan for your company is "Don't be evil," speaking out, I made a meme like a very long time ago. Maybe I have it. Nope. I made a funny meme though a long time ago. It was like the eyes of Sauron and like as Google, and it was very. I'll show it eventually, but it was going to be shared by PragerU in the early days. But if you make your slogan "Don't be evil," you will become evil. Like, it's almost inevitable. Support what you believe in, not what you don't believe in. Don't focus on bad things. Focus on good things. Focus on building, growing, supporting what's good, not only fighting what's bad. If you support what's good and you ignore what's bad, and enough people do that, you don't need to fight what's bad. It will just die. You just need to wait and continue to support what's good. Like, if you want to have a slogan, it should be "Do good," not "Don't be evil." Or say, "I'm pro-liberty," not "I'm anti-fascist." Or, "I'm pro-equality," not "I'm anti-racist." Like, that doesn't you don't want to be anti. And that's why I probably won't have a downvote on my social media platform. Like, it doesn't help anybody, I don't think. It's usually used as a weapon, and then everybody's like, oh, did you see who got ratioed? Oh, owned. It's like, no, if you get enough bad comments that are explaining why people are pissed instead of just like hitting the downvote, I think that's more constructive. And that's true also of like voting in politics. Yeah, I don't think I really dislike many politicians politically. I don't even think I should be able to downvote. I would be too tempted, and I would define myself by them a little bit. I did not know this about PragerU. About what? How? Torin. What didn't you know? Hello, just found your Instagram and it led me here. Awesome, DM4003. Glad to have you. Joe Rogan gives me bad vibes. Joe Rogan is somebody who I think adds a lot of value, a lot more value than most celebrities. Or I hate that word. Most, people with big followings, like big followings, millions and millions of people watching them. At the same time, like, I don't agree with him on everything. So there's that. He doesn't give me bad vibes. Everybody, Lex Friedman, and I'm going to call out Lex Friedman a little bit because Eric called him out already and like it was public because it's in the stream. But I'll find it and I'll share it. But Lex kind of really, I don't want to say idol worships Joe Rogan, but like it seems to come a little close. And I understand if you're not somebody who is a person where God is a central figure in their life, like you don't have a choice. There's that quote of like, if you don't worship God, you'll worship anything. It's like, you can't eliminate your ability to worship. This is where Sam Harris is just crazy. And you will worship something. And if somebody as big as Joe Rogan treats you the way that he has treated Lex Friedman, which Lex Friedman is kind of like the younger Joe Rogan. He has all kinds of people on. He's very good at podcasting. He's able to talk to almost anyone. That's very good quality. They're very similar in some ways, and I understand why he looks up to Joe Rogan. I don't think that that's wrong in that space. And they both do jiu-jitsu and all kinds of stuff. I do too. So like I get it when you look at people that are successful in the things that you want to do. I want to do podcasting too, but I don't want to have everybody on, even though it's called the theory of everyone. I want to be a little more focused on morality, but and physics and stuff. But still, like, I'm never gonna have Miley Cyrus on my show. I mean, actually, if she offered to come on, probably would, but I don't. She would never offer because I wouldn't talk about anything that anybody else has ever asked her questions about. I don't know what I would ask her questions about, but I remember Joe Rogan had on Miley Cyrus after he signed the Spotify deal, and everybody was like, well, there you go, sold out. But then he had Alex Jones back on. It's like, well, people aren't perfect. But Eric Weinstein said to Lex, when Lex was kind of just like saying too many nice things about Joe Rogan, he was like, no living heroes, Lex. And I was like, exactly, Eric. Exactly. No living heroes. It doesn't end well ever. You can have people that you look up to, obviously, but that, like, you can't have heroes. God is your hero. He's all of our hero. I've thought more than once about how God did not want a man of war to build the temple. I've thought about my 24 years as military brat and how war, violence, killing, and battle affects a person. I'm sure it does. I study violence very closely. I'm very, 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 I've been in, fights that had serious consequences for people. Not me, thank God. I've won in every moment that, like, it was kind of critical. But I've, fist fight can turn deadly. This is what people who don't study violence don't realize. But it is different when you're seeing death. I'm sure of that. I have not seen that. I've never been to war. I'm not claiming, but you know, to see death around you and to see other men causing that death and to know that other men are trying to cause that onto you, that's got to do something that is gives it permanently alters your perspective. I'm sure it does. So that makes sense, Chris. I can't say that I understand what that's like, but I can definitely understand that that would be a specific perspective that you would gain from that. He's got great interviews, but there's a bad aftertaste for me. You know, some people just rub people the wrong way. Sometimes people do that to me. Sometimes Joe Rogan does that to me. Sometimes he doesn't. Just depends. I've thought more than once about. It's been interesting how a man of war and a man of the cloth can separate, but both men of God. Yeah, that's true. Should they have gone with Protifa? Protifa? No, I don't know what that means. Because they're Antifa means anti-fascist, so you wouldn't want to be pro-Tifa. If you're pro-fascism, then you should be say I'm pro-fascism. I tend not to downvote unless it's nefarious or completely false or incorrect. Yeah, I that's how I am too. Yeah, I've kind of grown out of it, but I was introduced to great thinkers, and I also get the subtle God complex propaganda vibes as well. Yeah, how they're working on a lot of education stuff. Yeah, they're doing this like, and then I gotta get out. Actually, I have like to go at around 9, possibly. Let me check because I might have to make. Oh, hold on 1 second, guys. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go at 9. But they're doing this. Prep kid shows. This is like homeschooling stuff. And I think this is great. I really do. Study guides, you know, like I don't think they're going to be successful in revolutionizing the school system because they're not attacking the incentive structures of it. But that doesn't mean this isn't great. A lot of this isn't great content. Look at this: world history, US history, life studies, economics. That's great. Especially if it's like home economics. That would be really, that's not home economics. Capitalism versus socialism is a stupid debate.
Capitalism.
I will say that. Like, they're a marriage. They're not competing ideologies. They're only competing when you don't understand them. That's something you have to realize, though, via this type of work. But they don't do this type of work. Yeah, this is more political economic stuff, but they are doing like a lot of kids shows and stuff like that. And that's good. They had how to, you know, they had a great video on how to be less addicted to your screen, like your phone. And they had great tips in there of like, don't bring your phone into every room with you, like leave it in a certain spot and then go check it whenever you really need to. Like there was some good stuff on there. Like, you know, how to treat a flag, I think is interesting at least. I was arguing for this type of shift a bit. I created this show called Trading Up with Will. It was going to be probably with Will, but it was for whoever they wanted it to be with. And it was called Trading Up, and I wrote the whole outline for it, and it was probably going to be Will going to all these trade schools or basically learning how to do like install wiring in a room, how to change tires, how to, you know, change the oil on a car, how to blow glass, how to do make jewelry, like how to, I don't know, do construction work, all these different trade jobs he was going to go and learn how to do. And it was going to be like a very dirty jobs type of feel. And at the end, he was going to, if it maybe visits a carpenter, makes a chair. And like at the end, he chose his chair, and or he wires the room or something like that. And it just would show men like this path of like, you can better yourself, you can get skills to actually like do these things that are necessary to survive. And they turned it down and instead went with other projects, which is unfortunate. I hope they bring that back, even though I'm not there. Like that would be, they have the idea, and the name. It's a great name, Trading Up. It's like that would be much more valuable than this. Even though I'm not saying this isn't a step in the right direction, it's a little less political and responsive to the media. That's great. This is actually building something, even if it's not what I would choose to build. And I support that. But, like, it's men who need to start building their own lives that are the ones that really need some guidance right now in society. Anyways. Final questions. These days, it seems to be Joe Rogan or Bill Maher. How'd they work? Oh, studies would have been great. Studies would, sponsoring. Trust me. I told them basically, what if we took some of the I came up with this idea that like, we take some of the advertising money and instead of just pumping it to ads for people that don't want to see them, we take some of that and we send that money, I don't know, a few $1,000s even, a month, maybe like $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and you send it to the Geometric Unity Project because it implies God inevitably, or something like that, or the Quantum Gravity Research Foundation, or any other type of like real physics that's currently been ostracized and called the fringe, but that we could basically then say, hey guys, actually, PragerU is supporting this physics research that's implying God exists. Doesn't that change your perspective on morality, society? And that would be like a bigger, it would cause a splash that's very unique and also like wide-ranging in its implications. So you just kind of introduce the idea. It's like Inception. You push the idea of God, if it's true, which I think it is true. I know it's true. And then you let society figure out morality from there. You don't have to, you can offer whatever guidance you think you have, but like, if you come to believe in that God that God exists, or come to the knowledge of God, that God exists after that, then you cannot help but change your moral perspective on almost every aspect of your life. And you can let people do that organically. And I thought that would be more impactful and also help like push physics forward a bit. But I understand they are so outside of that type of thing. But Brian Keating is on their board of directors, of like advisors. And like Brian Keating is somebody, he describes himself as an agnostic, but I think that I don't know where he would lean in moments that matter most, but he does study a lot and practices a lot of aspects of Jewish life. So like I was hoping would be like able to help PragerU navigate that environment, but I don't think that Brian Keating actually sees that in physics. And yet, I think he might start, but I don't think so yet, and definitely not at the time. So, fail, but it's okay. God, figures it all out. Did you know Alex Jones does another podcast as a different character? I've heard that. That's hilarious. The tells Alex and his other characters both say Benjamin instead of Benjamin. Interesting. I don't watch Alex Jones enough to know any of this, any of his lingo. I just watch him when he goes on Joe Rogan. He's hilarious. Bet Bill Hicks at least once on camera. In any case, the PragerU stuff is pretty good. Yeah, it's building something. I give them credit for that. It's not what I would choose to build, but it's something. Home economics should be more approachable for kids. Do you use Excel or other software for your personal financial data? I use Excel for everything, Esteban. Everything. Wedding planning, guest lists, finances, physics, philosophy, planning of reptiles. Like, look at this. It's my reptile project Excel document. And it has all the species that I want, all the ones I have, listed out. And I designed cages on here. These are the cages that I have that I designed and built. That's physics that I posted, but like more cages designs, like more cage designs and plans and things like that. I do everything in Excel. It's just an incredible platform when you know how to use it and you are creative with it and you see it as the blank canvas that it is and you know what you can do with it. You can build snake cages. And I literally, when I get pieces of glass and plastics cut for the cages that I design, I send the diagrams with dimensions and everything to the plastics company, and they just cut it for me, and then I put it all together. But anyways, weird hobbies that I have. It's good to keep things, I think it's good to keep things alive, whether that's plants or fish or reptiles. Like, it's good to see growth in life. That is so cool. Yeah, thanks. Like, I love designing cages. Like, that is one of my favorite parts of this hobby. I love designing like worlds, which makes sense if I'm gonna do this stuff. This is like designing worlds, but it's really deducing worlds more than anything else. I want to plan my herp builds. Yeah, you can always do that. Like, it's super easy. You don't even have to have Excel. I used to do it I used to have a notebook before I used Excel for everything. A few years ago, I just had a notebook. I just drew it all out. And, that's how I did it. You can do it like that too. You don't have to use Excel. So anyways, I appreciate everybody being on here. This was kind of like an interesting stream, but tomorrow is Thursday. We will have Discord discussions. So anybody who wants to participate in a live conversation, voice to voice, I'm going to be sharing my screen, going over some of the more intricacies of the math, talking about things that YouTube would probably kick us off the live stream to talk about. Always, those Discord discussions are awesome. They go on for a long time usually, and I get to know you guys, and which is very cool, and it helps build the community even outside of me. So I think that's very important. So tomorrow it will be probably, honestly, like between 6 and 7. I'll announce it on my Instagram when I am going to do it, because we just always go so late. I keep having to move it forward. But it's always a blast to anybody that wants to join. If you don't have the link, message me a private message on Instagram, and I will send you a current link for the Discord server. But anyways, guys, God bless, and thank you again for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace.